So I realized that just like you say, lest ye be born again, you have to die before you're born again. And I saw that my process was dying to who I thought I was. Who I thought I was must die for who I am to be.
Let's try that. Okay. So for anybody who's been watching on the video, apparently I needed to reset a setting in my restream, but all of this will be on um, the podcast version. Well, with all the lovely interruptions of the phone and everything, it's kind of making my head spin a bit this morning. But to recap a bit of what I've been processing, and I'll make this very quick. Um, when we find ourselves exhausted and having no ability to um, do the things that we are generally used to doing, the things that we'd like to be doing, instead of always working from this place of assuming that we are failures in some way, that there's just nothing that can fix me, there's nothing I can do about it. Um, I think it's important to remember how much energy we put into holding back a flood of emotions, a flood of feelings, a flood of grief, a flood of sorrow, sadness, a flood of saying goodbye. The idea of saying goodbye sometimes is so heavy, and we push that off. We hold that back. We just don't allow ourselves to say goodbye. Say goodbye to the people we've lost. Say goodbye to the parts of ourselves that we've lost. Say goodbye to the plans that we had that didn't quite turn out the way we thought they would. And holding that back, using, and if again, the visual of holding, putting your hands up and holding this gate closed to keep this flood back, that's a lot of energy. That's a lot of energy. And you're using that to protect yourself. And the reasons that we do things to protect ourselves is because we feel threatened. And the reason we feel threatened is it's hard to even imagine the end of something so close to who we are. And when we identify with all of these things so closely, we hold on tightly because the idea that it would go away would mean that a part of me is going away, and I don't know if I would recover from that. So we put a lot of our energy into that. This is where the intersections of trauma and grief come in together. Right? Grieving is the ability to experience the goodbye. Right? And I think we don't often really understand or communicate or take into account how important that is for us to be able to do every day with little things, because it's all just a series of these small moments. And I'm going to play that clip one more time by Ram Dass, because I think that inevitably a lot of this comes down to our fear of death. And not just fear of being dead, but our fear of dying, what it's going to be like, what it is like each time that a part of my identity, a part of who I think I am, goes away. You know, this is why I think that culturally we have, um, throughout time, different cultures have developed different threshold ceremonies, right? Coming of age ceremonies, a wedding ceremony, graduation ceremonies, funeral ceremonies, birthing ceremonies, ceremonies for the beginning of menstruation, ceremonies for uh, becoming an adult. Um, we have really patterned our cultures over time in this way to have these thresholds, and it's something we just don't do as much anymore. A lot of our threshold ceremonies have been highly commercialized. A birthday celebration has become an opportunity to purchase things for people, and purchasing a cake and all of these things. But the roots of that, where that comes from, is to recognize you are crossing another threshold as you move around this sun. Again, so much has changed for you in this last year, and you are preparing for another one of those cycles of change. And that's a big deal. It's a big deal to mark those moments, because that's a time when you can actually look back over that year and realize the ways in which you've grown is also equivalent to the ways in which you've died. The things about you that you have let go, that's equivalent to the way in which you've grown. And so these threshold ceremonies have been the way that we have healthily communicated with our lives and dealt with those goodbyes. And without having those in place and intact, we oftentimes are scared away from that feeling. We don't feel supported and held by our communities. And many of us don't even know that we have communities that can do this. Many of us feel like, this is my problem. I'll deal with my problems. I'm not going to be a burden on anyone. We don't know. We just don't know that this is what we're actually here to do. That being social creatures means this. It's not just some primitive brain study on, the reptilian brain of survival only. The survival is actually healthy communication with one another. That survival is supporting one another through loss and grief and growth and change. That survival is being there to support one another when one can't even bear the weight of their own body, let alone the weight of the world that they seem to be carrying. Do you know what that feels like? I'm going to say it again. When you feel like you can't bear the weight of your own body because of the weight of the world that you've been carrying. I think that's probably going to touch home with a lot of people right now that are hearing this. I think for a lot of people, it started way before COVID, but COVID definitely was a wholesale event. We were liquidating some feelings of security, trust, and bonds within our community at that point. And there's a belief that begins to be made that you are alone on this, that this is your responsibility. And a lot of our cultural memes even point to that. The fact that one of the most common things to call someone that you disagree with or someone who hurt you is a narcissist. That tells me that you feel so disconnected from people that you can't even begin to allow yourself the notion that this may just be harmful or painful communication skills, communication styles. Like, this may be the inability to let yourself change and to be changed by the world. What a beautiful thing that can be, to be changed by the world. One of the amazing things, and this might get confused for tough love, and I really am not a proponent of tough love at all. I don't think love is tough. I think gentility and kindness for the win every time. But there's this thing about babies and butterflies. This thing about babies and butterflies. And I've heard this in many different talks that I've had. Many different teachers have shared similar teachings. But did you know a baby, when learning to walk, has to fall down? It's a part of the makeup of what's happening. For this baby to build all of the muscles and the emotional muscles, the psychology behind what's happening with the body movement through this world. To do that, a baby has to be able to fall down, and then it has to be able to pick himself up, pick herself up, himself up. That baby has to be able to experience the fall so that they can get the strength to stand up again. And then doing that, falling and standing, that baby is learning how to communicate and deal with this change. It's very important. The psychology from that moment is firing neurons that is going to last for the rest of that person's life. And a butterfly in the chrysalis, as that caterpillar is changing into the butterfly, as it struggles to break free from the chrysalis, it can look extremely painful and it can look touch and go, right? You don't know, oh my gosh, is this one going to die in the chrysalis? But if you come and you tear that chrysalis off to free that butterfly will fall to the ground and most likely not get back up and will not develop the strength that it needs to fly. And this teaching is sometimes confused with this notion that don't help people because they need to learn how to do it themselves. And that's not it. That's not the lesson here. The lesson here is not in the struggle of the butterfly, but in the flight of it. The flight of that butterfly says that you, in all of your beauty and splendor, are made of all of the things, both gentle and difficult, that you've experienced in your life, and they are equal in importance. And they aren't happening to you now. It's because of those things that you can do the things that you can do. But you don't need to stay in those places. You did those things so that you can move through. Do you see that? Do you see what I'm saying there? It's this idea of learned helplessness. Um, and so I'm going to play this clip again from Ram Dass because I think this is really relevant. To remember, we are always being born. Something new is always being born. These thresholds we cross, these ceremonies we've forgotten, bring them back. Bring them back in your mind and in your body and in your practices, in your breathing. Learning that breathing in deep isn't always exactly what you need. Maybe breathing out long and releasing. That's your opening. You know, there's a flow. There's a flow of letting go and receiving. So one more time from Ram Dass.
So I realized that just like you say, lest ye be born again. You have to die before you're born again. And I saw that my process was dying to who I thought I was. Who I thought I was must die for who I am to be.
And I think that we're terrified to think about that. So we put our energy into holding back that wall that on the other side of this wall, we are just sure there is enough grief and sorrow and trauma and pain and fear to crush me. So I'm going to put all my energy into this. And then at the end of doing that, we have very little left to stand back up when we fall like that baby did. We have very little left. We have very little left to break the chrysalis like the butterfly. So the act of letting go and surrendering, taking my arms off of that floodgate and allowing things to start to move through, that is not an act of giving up. That is an act of strength. That is an act of bravery. And that is an act that is necessary for you to move into your life with the things that you are here to do. This is part of the makeup of who we are. And even if we see that baby is falling and getting up and it has to do that to be able to learn, that baby also needs to be surrounded by loving, supportive people. So if that baby falls and gets hurt, we can pick that baby up and love on that baby and hold that baby and let that baby try again, right? These butterflies, the way they migrate is dependent upon large groups of them. This is how their patterning for getting from one place to the next is. It's dependent upon the group dynamic of multiple millions of these butterflies in this migration. We are not isolated. We are not alone. And we are built from the things that it takes for us to survive in a healthy and loving way. We just need to find it again. So this has been a long morning sit. So thank you for your patience and sitting through this with all the interruptions and the fact that most of the people that are here probably did not hear this for the first 20 minutes. So you can find this in the audio download that'll be ready to listen to within a half an hour. And you can find it now. We are on Apple Podcast, which took some time to make happen. And I'm happy to be able to put this practice into more places. So if you enjoy or take any benefit from this, please take just a few moments to go to your wherever you listen to it and throw a like on there, throw a review, a follow, give us a rating, and take some time to communicate back. This morning sit functions really, really well when we can have different voices as input. It really, really brings it into a fuller view for me. So you can use the chat feature, and wherever you're watching this, you can send an email to journeyhomemeditation@gmail.com. You can follow the links on the Spotify to leave a voice message, and I can hear your voice message. And if you'd like, if you give me permission, I can play that voice message on one of the broadcasts. If you have a question or a comment or want to share a practice, please participate in this. But thank you so much for being here this morning, and let's just take a few minutes to share a practice together. Sometimes just the act of taking a few breaths can help get us on track for where we want to go with our day. So find yourself moving into your meditation posture. And that meditation posture is going to look different for each person, and it's going to look different in different times. So you may be seated in a chair right now, as I am, with your feet flat to the floor or your legs crossed in any number of ways. Release that breath. This is a practice of devotion to breathing, which is to say, this is a devotional practice to life, which is to say, this is a devotional practice to dying. Each in-breath is a rebirth, each out-breath is a small death. We inspire, we expire. So straighten your spine as much as you can comfortably. Bring your shoulder blades together just a little bit in the back to open your chest and open your heart. Let your shoulders relax downward. If you are in a place to allow yourself to close your eyes, just gently close your eyes. Breathing out entirely, breathe in. Breathing in through the nose to the bottom of the belly. Breathing out of the mouth. Extending our out breath just a little longer than our in breath. Feel what's happening in your body. If you have nervous energy, just feel that. Sit with what that is. You might even want to say aloud, I'm feeling nervous. I'm feeling a touch of anxiety. Okay, that's where you are right now. Or maybe I'm having a hard time sitting still. Just say that aloud. This is not a battle with yourself. This is a non-violent practice, which means we are showing up with gentleness, acceptance, and love, just exactly as we are right now. Exactly what is. Notice the way your body is starting to respond to the practice, and how the mind is responding to the body, and how the breath is responding to it all. As the breath gets smoother and gentler, as the body relaxes into space, as the mind focuses and becomes silent. You can stay here as long as you'd like. And when you're ready, just gently open your eyes and bring a loving thought. You did good. You did a good thing. Just loving on you for a minute. Thanks. Thanks for doing that. So I know today when I'm out and I can think to myself, how many of us here gave a loving moment to ourselves today, and what a gift that is. And I won't even know. I have no idea who all is going to be out there just functioning from a place of love. I'll just know that I am. And that's enough. Even with all the distractions, there are no distractions. Distractions are attachments. And with the phones ringing, there's a part of me that wants to attach to that. Oh, why don't I know how to mute this phone? With the audio not working, there's that part of me that wants to attach and have that punitive way of thinking, like, oh, I'm such an idiot. I should have checked that. But there's no distractions. It's all a part of it. It's all a part of it right here, right now. And I don't want to use my energy holding things back. I want to be fed by things flowing through. So that's what I'm going to work on today. What are you going to work on today? How are you going to move in through your world? Whatever way it is, it's all part of it. And I'm just glad to know you. Thanks, friends. Adios.